The signal arrived in the dead of night, a whisper from the void that shouldn't have existed. At first, it was just noise, a burst of gamma interference detected by an old radio telescope in northern Chile. But deep within the cascading waveforms was something impossible. Something structured. Dr. Evelyn Carter stared at the screen, rubbing the exhaustion from her eyes. She had spent over a decade analyzing cosmic background radiation, pulsar signatures, and the occasional artifact from human-made satellites. But this was different. The signal had a pulse, a pattern, a rhythm. Something, or someone, was transmitting a message. She leaned forward, her fingers flying over the keyboard, isolating the anomalous frequency. The data was garbled, but its precision was undeniable. "Come on," she muttered, adjusting the spectrum analyzer. Then the pattern shifted. The signal wasn't just broadcasting. It was responding. Evelyn's pulse spiked. Responding to what? The thought sent a chill down her spine. She hadn't transmitted anything out. Earth hadn't sent any reply, not yet. But as she filtered the background noise, she realized the horrifying truth. The signal wasn't a greeting. It was an echo. Someone else, something else, had already answered. A message from nowhere. By the time Evelyn contacted the rest of the team, the data had already gone public. The internet was ablaze with speculation. Some called it a hoax. Others feared it was some long-forgotten Cold War broadcast bouncing off deep space debris. But those who knew, those who understood the science, were terrified. "Where did it come from?" asked Dr. Raj Patel, astrophysicist at the European Space Agency. His voice was tight over the encrypted video call. "The signal originated from interstellar space," Evelyn said, trying to keep her voice steady. "About 40 light-years from Earth, in a sector with no known exoplanets or stellar bodies capable of transmitting." "That's not possible," Dr. Nguyen from NASA interjected. "Even if an artificial source existed, there's no way it could have reached us without us noticing its origin beforehand." Evelyn exhaled sharply. "That's not the disturbing part." She tapped a key, sending the decrypted waveform across their screens. "It's a response," she continued. "Someone answered it before we even heard it." The silence that followed was suffocating. Dr. Patel leaned forward. "You're saying this signal, this alien transmission, was meant for something else and we're only intercepting the reply?" Evelyn nodded. Nguyen swore under his breath. "Do we know who answered?" "That's just it," Evelyn said, voice barely above a whisper. "The response came from Earth." A reply no one admitted to. Every major government agency denied involvement. SETI had no record of a transmission from their stations. The Deep Space Network hadn't sent anything beyond routine pings to the Voyager probes. Yet someone, somewhere, had responded. The encoded frequency matched no known terrestrial broadcast, but the signature was unmistakable. The response had originated from a classified relay station near the Arctic Circle. Evelyn's team wasn't supposed to have clearance, but under mounting pressure, a low-level intelligence officer leaked a single fragment of the intercepted reply. It was short. In English. "Acknowledged." That was it. No introduction, no message of peace, just an acknowledgement. Like a soldier confirming orders. Evelyn's stomach twisted. "What the hell is going on?" Patel asked. "Who the hell sent this?" But Evelyn already had a worse question forming in her mind. Not who sent it. But why did they respond so quickly? Like they had been expecting it. The eyes that watched the sky. In a remote underground facility beneath the Arctic ice, an old man sat alone in a steel-walled room, staring at a blinking console. His wrinkled fingers hovered over a control panel. He had been waiting for this moment for decades. The message had come. Not from the void, but from the past, from a decision made long before humanity even dreamed of reaching the stars. The order had been simple. If the signal ever returns, acknowledge it. And so he had. Now he watched as new signals began flooding the console. The original transmission had been a question. His answer had been the key. And the real conversation was about to begin. Far beyond Earth, something stirred in the darkness. It had been waiting. And now it knew humanity was still here. The world didn't know what had happened. Not yet. Evelyn Carter watched as classified networks lit up with frantic activity. The signal was still coming in, but something had changed. Before, it had been an echo, a message bouncing through the void, responding to a conversation that should never have involved humanity. Now the message was directed at Earth. The reply had triggered something. And whoever, or whatever, was out there had noticed. She ran her fingers through her hair, pulse pounding as the latest data streamed in. More signals. Stronger. Sharper. The structured waveform of an intelligence, one that now recognized them. They had spoken to something in the dark. And now the dark was speaking back. ####, the key that should never have turned. Dr. Patel's voice came over the secure channel, strained and disbelieving. The signal's evolving. Evelyn adjusted the filters, eyes darting across the spectrum analysis. The transmission was no longer a simple burst repeating itself. It was adapting. And then, the spectrogram sharpened. The noise crystallized. The waveform wasn't random. It was language. Not human language, not yet. But something close. It was learning. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "Oh my God," Raj whispered, "it knows we're listening." ###, an answer meant for someone else. A storm of speculation erupted across the world. The signal had reached too many ears, too many channels. Governments scrambled to contain the information, but it was too late. Something was talking to Earth. And people demanded to know, what does it want? As Evelyn's team decrypted the latest transmission, the weight of that answer settled like cold lead in her chest. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a warning. It was a request. And it was written in something chillingly familiar. Mathematical sequences. Universal constants. And then, a coordinate. Dr. Nguyen's voice broke the silence. "They're telling us where to go." ###, the silent war. In the Arctic bunker, the old man read the transmission with steady hands. He had prepared for this moment since the day they first told him what lay buried beneath the ice. The coordinates. They had been waiting for centuries. He tapped a key on the ancient terminal, sending a new message across a network that officially did not exist. Authorization confirmed. Prepare for retrieval. In the distance, deep beneath the frozen wasteland, enormous machines rumbled to life. Humanity had just been invited to the stars. But the question no one dared ask was, who did we just replace? The Arctic trembled. Beneath centuries of ice, something ancient awakened. Machines long buried beneath permafrost roared to life, shaking off layers of history like a beast shedding its skin. Towers of frozen steel and forgotten circuits hummed as encrypted commands poured through unseen channels. Humanity had responded to the signal. And now they had no choice but to see it through. ###, the Black Vault. Evelyn Carter barely felt the cold as she stepped off the transport plane. The brutal Arctic wind tore at her coat, but her mind was elsewhere. She stared at the massive steel doors embedded in the ice, taller than a skyscraper, older than any recorded civilization. Raj Patel stood beside her, his breath misting in the air. "They built this before space travel was even a concept," he muttered. What the hell were they preparing for? Evelyn had no answer. Because the truth was worse than anything she could imagine. The United States Deep Silence Initiative, a shadow project even blacker than the Manhattan Project, had built this facility over a century ago. And they hadn't been the first. This place had been sealed. Not as a research lab, but as a prison. Dr. Nguyen stepped forward, clutching the decrypted transmission in his hands. "We're about to find out," he murmured. The doors groaned open. And humanity stepped into a graveyard of the unknown. ###, the machine that waited. Inside, the air was stagnant, untouched for generations. But the deeper they went, the more the facility came alive. Lights flickered to a dim glow. Consoles booted up, waiting for commands last issued before World War I. And at the center of it all, it sat in a chamber of impossible architecture, covered in frost and age. A monolithic structure of dark metal, wires snaking into the ice like roots searching for something alive. The machine pulsed with a dull rhythmic glow. "Waiting," Raj whispered. "It's not just a receiver, is it?" Evelyn swallowed hard. No. She approached the terminal, its interface written in a language she had never seen, yet somehow understood. The transmission from deep space had sent coordinates. And now this machine was waiting for an input. A command. A message not meant for humans. But they had answered anyway. And now they had to decide. Send it? Or let it die? ****. ###, the cost of curiosity. Wait, Nguyen's voice cracked. "We don't even know what this does. We can't just." "We already did," Evelyn interrupted. She pointed to the screen. The machine wasn't idle. It had been decoding the signal from deep space in real time. Adapting. Evolving. A countdown appeared on the screen. 00:00:10. 00:00:09. Raj's face drained of color. It's not waiting for us to send a command. 00:00:08. 00:00:07. It's already responding. ####. The gates open. Somewhere in the void, a door unlocked. And something stepped through. The countdown hit 0. The machine exhaled. A soundless pulse rippled outward, far beyond human senses, beyond radio waves, beyond light, beyond anything known to Earth's physics. It was not just a message. It was a summoning. Evelyn's breath hitched as the Arctic bunker shook. Lights flickered. The air felt heavier, as if gravity itself had shifted. Something unseen coiled through the structure, pressing against reality like a predator testing the walls of its cage. And then, the stars changed. ####. The answer comes. Raj stumbled back from the console, eyes wide. Tell me that wasn't a transmission? It wasn't. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. It was a signal lock. A beacon. She turned to the main screen just in time to see the satellite feeds go dark. Every orbital telescope, every deep space array overloaded. Something was drowning out the sky. Dr. Nguyen's voice trembled. Look. He pointed to the live telemetry feed. A sector of space, previously empty, was now registering mass. Something had answered. Something was here. ####. The silent arrival. It started as a shadow, an absence where there should have been nothing. But as the distortion unfolded, they emerged. A fleet. Not ships in the way humanity understood them. Not crude machines of metal and fuel. These were entities, colossal and shifting, each shape warping between dimensions. They did not move through space. They displaced it. And they were already close. Too close. ####. We were never alone. Inside the bunker, the ancient machine pulsed one final time. Evelyn felt the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes turning toward her, toward Earth. Then the screen flashed with a single word. A word in English. A word humanity was never meant to read. Transfer. And the sky split open. ####. The reclamation. The first impact came soundlessly. A city vanished in an instant, swallowed in an inverted bloom of light. No explosion, no fire, just erasure. Panic ignited worldwide. Governments launched weapons, but there was nothing to hit. The entities didn't deflect attacks. They didn't respond. They were not here for war. They were here to collect. And Earth was not the first. ####. The price of answering. Evelyn stood in the control room, knowing the truth too late. Humanity had not been invited. They had answered a call meant for something else. And now the original recipients had returned to claim what was theirs. The stars flickered. And then one by one they began to go out. The signal was never for humans. But they answered anyway. And now it was too late.